everybody.
Hello.
Wasn't Amy's presentation great?
Yeah.
You know, I go to conferences all the time. I'm speaking at 7 conferences over a 10-week span right now. This is number 2 of 7. And I sit in tons of keynote addresses, and often they're throwaways. You know, I feel like they're fillers. And Amy's, I thought, was spectacular. And I thought it was such great messaging. And it made me think about my presentation and the content I'm giving you guys. And I don't want it to stress you out. Okay? I'm being genuine. I don't want it to stress you out. And you know, I'll deal with some things like social media. And I found over the years that social media is something that stresses people out, especially if you're not doing it. It's alien. You know, it's out there. It's weird. It was alien to me when I first started using it. And the thing I will tell you is, you can pick and choose from what I share with you today. You know, you don't have to do it all. We are all imperfect. And I think we have to embrace our imperfection. And none of us are going to be perfect and apply all this stuff. And you don't have to. Do what you can. Do what feels good to you. Do what feels comfortable. This is about helping you, not adding a layer of stress to your life. So I just felt Amy's presentation really helped me to think about this presentation. So I thank her greatly. Okay, so with that, you know I'm imperfect from day one. We're off to a good start. So I am Dan Dunlop. I'm a healthcare marketer. I have clients across New England, up and down the East Coast. We do marketing for hospitals and health systems. And about, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 7 years ago, I went to the gentleman who was the chairman of our company at the time, and I said, you know, we've always worked in healthcare, but I want to make healthcare a really strong niche. And I think the way to do it is for me to really put myself out there and build a reputation within the industry as a thought leader. So what I'm going to share with you today is my journey. I'm going to show you some other stuff too, and hopefully teach you a few things. But I'm going to share with you my journey to build my online brand reputation. And I'm a normal guy. I have a family. I have a wife and a daughter. So I have to fit all this in with family life and with interests outside of work as well. And I don't want to be a workaholic, and I don't want to be branded that way. I want to have balance in my life, and as I get older, I continue to work for that. So please know that this all comes within the context of trying to have balance. So why bother? I mean, thank you all for being here and for sitting in on this session. But why bother with this? And I know there are different opinions about this. Why bother to manage your reputation online and your reputation in general? You guys tell me, be interactive. I'm open to you being totally interactive. I prefer you come up here and do the presentation for me. Yes, ma'am.
Because people are looking online, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I am so far down that road right now, looking online to find out information. Before I have a meeting with somebody, I will Google them. And I will Google their images, you know, so I know what they look like, because I want to know if I'm meeting with Christine, I want to recognize her. Or maybe remind myself what Christine looks like, because I've met her once or twice. And I want to be able to go, oh, Christine, you know, because I'm not good at that. So I Google people. It weirds people out sometimes. So I'm one of those people who definitely goes in. Do you guys do that too? Raise your hand if you check out people before you meet with them online. So you can see it is fairly prevalent. Even if you're not doing it, other people are doing it when they're meeting with you. So the question is, what are they learning when they go online and look for you? And it's hard to hide in this world, but some people still manage to. So you've told me, first of all, other professionals, as we've said, are going to find out about you. And you absolutely want to control what they learn about you. Absolutely. And I'll give you some examples from my own experience. This is your brand. This is really a branding thing. It is about protecting your brand. And a lot of this stuff online is there forever. You may want to find a new position. This isn't just about job hunting, though, and I want to be clear about that. This is about managing your reputation no matter what. But you might want to job hunt someday. You might want to move on to something new. And certainly, most people who are looking for employees today are checking them out online. And if you're hiring someone, they're probably going to check you out to learn about you. If they have half a brain, they should. I want to know. And your daughter might Google you one day. And you don't want them finding weird things about you on the internet. All right, so learn to enjoy profile building. I'm glad I had this slide in here because I think it works very well with Amy's presentation. I think you're only going to do it if you learn to enjoy it. You know? And so you have to pick and choose the elements that you really will enjoy. And I'll share with you lots of ideas along the way. So you can pick from those and determine what works best for you. But it is your brand, it's your career, so market yourself. Market your brand. And I'm going to show you how to do it. And even more important than marketing yourself is monitoring your brand. So how many of you have Google alerts set up with your name so that you get an email when somebody writes about you on the internet? Anybody? I know hospital presidents who have it set up where they have, you know, Tom Smith plus, you know how you do keywords, you do Tom Smith plus Tufts Medical Center, or whatever, you know. I know a lot of CEOs actually who have their name plus sucks as a Google search alert.
Wow. Teachers.
Yeah, you want to know when people are writing that stuff, but it's enough to put your name up there, plus your organization. So if somebody is bashing you as the CEO, and if you are a hospital president, you know, Sandy, for example, your PR team should have this set up for you, so they get the alert. So if somebody is on a rampage, they not only have your, you know, Kent Hospital on there, but they have your name, because you're intertwined with that brand. And this really is about building your organization brand at the same time you're building your own brand often. So go back to your offices and set up Google alerts for your own name. Or at least Google yourself. And see, it's not an act of vanity to Google yourself. It isn't. I do it once a week. I just want to see what people have written about me out there. It's just standard routine, and I often find really interesting stuff. You know, it's amazing how many people will lift, like, I'm a blogger. People will lift my blog post without my permission and put it on their blogs, and they think that's okay in this day of technology, but it's not. So it's important to check out what people are writing. So your name and your organization, your name and sucks. Try some other search engines too, like try Bing, because often they'll come up with different results. So don't just rely on Google. You can set up the same kind of alerts that you have on Google on Yahoo, for example, and Yahoo will send you an email when somebody writes about you. There's also a service called Social Mention, I think just socialmention.com, where you can do searches, and it's a little more thorough with social media, so it'll look on Facebook pages and through all different kind of social media outlets. Yes, ma'am?
I have a question, just a quick question
Yeah.
before I lose a thought. What if you have a really common name?
Do your name plus your organization. So your name in quotes, plus sign, and then your Massachusetts Hospital Association. And maybe do some variations like MA Hospital Association, just so you don't miss it in case somebody's abbreviating it. But the real message is be vigilant about your brand. And this doesn't mean like staying up nights and stressing about it, but once a week, check it out. Or better yet, set it up with Google so it's automated. It comes to you, you don't have to work. That's when it's going to work best for you. If it's easy, it will work best within the context of your life. So I checked out Jill online, who works for the Mass Hospital Association. You guys know Jill, she's wandering around here, a little dynamo of a woman. Jill's relatively young. She volunteered to let me check her out online. So I Googled Jill, and there wasn't much there. I really didn't find a lot, which is, you know, she's young. She's early in her career. She's had a few good jobs. So I did find LinkedIn. It came up on the first page of the Google search. So I checked out Jill, and look what I found on LinkedIn. There are two Jills with the same name. And they're both in the Boston area. And they both have experience with nonprofits. Interesting. What do you think's happening here?
She had two profiles.
She had two profiles. So Jill should delete one of her profiles. That's one lesson from this. Because you want to make it easy for people to learn about you. And you should all have a LinkedIn account. I mean, LinkedIn, how many of you have LinkedIn accounts? Don't be embarrassed if you don't. Okay. So one of the things I'll teach you today is how to enrich that account. And this is not like something you have to be vigilant about. You can do it a couple times a year, update it. It's not something don't be a slave to social media, whatever it is, LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. But Jill needs to go in and delete this old one because all this information is replicated here. And it's confusing, and it looks like if Jill's applying for a job or I'm checking her out, it looks like she's not paying attention to that. But here, you learn a lot of good stuff about Jill when you go to her profile on LinkedIn. You know, you learn about her background and experience. This is her real page. But look, so she's got recommendations from people. Isn't that cool? People have written recommendations. And you have to ask yourself, what kind of weight do recommendations have? You know, does it matter? And I think in the world, LinkedIn is no different from the rest of the world. Do recommendations matter in the real world? I mean, people ask for recommendations from people they know are going to give them good recommendations, right? So there's always some weighting you have to do with the recommendation. So I think a recommendation on LinkedIn is no different than a letter of recommendation you get from someone who's applying for a job or that you're an organization you're looking to hire. So I place value on this, that people are willing to publicly go on and say, I like Jill. She's good. I worked with her. That's a good thing, and Jill is smart to have that on her LinkedIn page. And I don't know if she solicited those, or if, some people just go on and recommend you. It's amazing. It's one of the neat things about LinkedIn. And she's got all kinds of experience here. And you notice Jill didn't just do the minimum. She's done a nice job. She's given some bullets here of different things she's done at different positions, so you can get a sense of the kind of work she did. Whereas mine, I might just have, President Jennings and Company or whatever, and that's it. Jill's really gone to some extent to give you good information about her, and they link the recommendation to the specific position. So that's cool. Now, since Jill is so young and new in her career, I also thought I'd check out Catherine Bromberg, who's a whole lot older, I only say it because Catherine is a friend, a dear friend of mine. Catherine and I have known each other for many, many years. And I said, well, I'll check out Catherine and see where this takes me. And I love this. Check it out. This is the truth. First page, I did the Google search, regular web search. Immediately, Catherine on LinkedIn. Catherine on LinkedIn, Catherine on Twitter, Catherine on Facebook, and even photo search pulls up Catherine. There are some other people too. I guess maybe those are.
I'd rather look like the third one.
I was sitting here going, man.
You changed.
That's right.
But Catherine's online profile is awesome. You learn a lot about her. You learn where she is immediately without even having to go into any of this information. I say, okay, Catherine is savvy about social media. She's on Twitter, she's on Facebook, she's on LinkedIn. She's got her act together. It was impressive immediately. And then I went into her. This is on her LinkedIn profile. There's a place that shows, when I'm checking somebody out, it shows the shared connections. You guys know that? So it'll tell me people Catherine knows that I also know on LinkedIn. And I thought, man, Catherine and I've got a lot of shared friends. And also, these are people who are pretty cool. I look at them and I go, one of my favorite people in the world, David Fairchild, he used to be the chief medical officer at Tufts Medical Center in Boston. I love David. I think, oh, Catherine and David are connected on LinkedIn. That's awesome. Brooke Hine. David Harlow is a real thought leader in social media law, and he's based in Boston. Jim Rattray heads up marketing for South Coast. I look at that and I say, we're kindred spirits, So this is a powerful part of LinkedIn. Yes, ma'am.
So, do you recommend that you only accept people that you know?
No.
I mean, like every day, but so then what meaning is it?
It's about, LinkedIn is not about friends, like Facebook would be. LinkedIn is not about friends. It's about business connections. And what you need to do is make a decision, is this a benefit to me? And if it's not a benefit to you or your organization, don't accept it.
But sometimes I think I think they're doing it to get my name on their list.
Yeah, oh, exactly. And you don't have to play that game.
Okay.
Do what's going to benefit you. Because if you, what I don't like is when you allow somebody to connect with you who you don't know, then they start soliciting you for stuff. I think that is completely uncool. I'm not in favor of it. So I do think you have every right to be choosy. So I look at this and I go, that's powerful. We have some shared interests. And then even if I didn't know Catherine and I'm checking out her profile, look at these groups she belongs to. And there's 7 more that aren't showing up just on this screenshot. But she's a member of this healthcare marketing group, the Forum for Healthcare Strategists, Boston PR Professionals, Boston Women Communicators, or whatever. What does that tell you about her? What does it say when you look at that?
She's well connected.
Yeah, very engaged in her field. She's an engaged professional. So how many of you belong to any LinkedIn groups? Raise your hand if you belong to LinkedIn groups. I would say LinkedIn is probably the most misunderstood social media tool out there, and yet it's very popular. You know, a lot of us are on it. But to me, the real value of LinkedIn isn't having my resume on there. You know, that's nice. The real value is it's a professional development tool for me. I love it. I belong to 50 groups. That's the most you're allowed to join. I belong to 50 groups, and the majority of them are healthcare related. You know, healthcare marketers, a lot of the same ones Catherine belongs to, except the women-oriented ones. Although after today, I might join a
I was going to say, I can try, I'll vouch for you.
I'll get references. But let me just finish this point, and I'm calling on you. These groups, when you join them, you get a daily e-blast from them. And you can opt in to, you know, get it once a week, once a day. I like getting them once a day. And it sends you the discussions that are taking place. And I use these for crowdsourcing. If I'm working on a big project, like I was working on a physician relations project, and I wanted to see what was new and kind of novel in marketing to referring physicians, I went on a bunch of these groups and posted discussions and said, hey, what are you doing that's really new and exciting in this area? I'd love to hear about it. Or when I'm writing an article, I'll go on these groups and solicit information. You know, who's got a great example of something new in this area that I could write about, or who would be good for me to interview? So they're really helpful, and then I get the daily e-blast, and I can check out what the conversations are. So it's a fabulous way to stay connected and kind of on the forefront of what's going on in your particular area. And there's a group for almost everything on here.
So maybe like if you're a hospital CEO, you might want to see if ACHE has one of these. Yeah, so any group that you associate with, like MHA, ACHE, HFMA, whatever your professional societies are, just go on LinkedIn and search, and you'll see their logo usually. And it's just as easy as, I think, probably clicking on it and joining. Right.
And sometimes you have to be careful because they'll have kind of what I call a company page, which is a profile page, and then they also have a group. And when you're searching on LinkedIn, there's a little drop-down menu to search for individuals, groups, or companies. So you'll search under groups, and that will take you there.
Dan, for those of us who have trust issues, I wonder...
You're telling us more than we need to know, Patty.
I'm not speaking. I'm just wondering about what the mechanics are for actually creating a LinkedIn group. What is the criteria? Who actually gets to go in and create a group, number one? And number two, what are the mechanics to joining a group? In other words, do you have to be a member of LinkedIn, or can anybody join? Do some groups have established criteria that you have to meet in order to become a member of that group?
It's a great question.
That may be a little too detailed, but
Sure.
if you can just touch on it.
No, it's an easy question to answer. First of all, one of the things I like about LinkedIn today is it's not like Facebook where you can have a fake identity. You are who you are on LinkedIn. You have to have a profile. You have to have your name and certain information to be on LinkedIn in the first place. And the only way you can join a group or start a group is by having that profile there. So there's a lot less of that weirdness that you find like on Facebook or Twitter even. You can have a fake identity for sure. And you might never know the name of somebody you're dealing with. On LinkedIn, you know the name, and you know where they work, and you even know where they live, basically. I mean, the region of the country they're from. So it's very hard to hide and to be a stalker on LinkedIn. Now, in terms of starting a group, anybody can start a group. And the good thing for you all as professionals is you can join the groups that have been started by really reputable organizations like we were just discussing. You don't have to join Dan Dunlop's group. you can join the Massachusetts Hospital Association's group. But I started a little group about restaurants. I live in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina, so I just started a little group about restaurants. I thought it'd be fun. People could, chime in and talk about their favorite restaurants. And I'm amazed people keep joining the darn thing. It's wild. But so yeah, I mean, somebody who knows nothing about your industry could start a group and pretend they know something about your industry. So go with the reputable ones, and the reason to do that is their logos show up here, just like they have on Catherine's, and it builds your brand. Because your brand, your personal brand, I have a whole separate presentation on your personal brand. Your personal brand is like, I think I'm not into NASCAR racing, but I know enough, I see it. Do you know how they wear uniforms, or what suits, or whatever they're called, the zip up or whatever, and their cars too, they have all those logos on them? That's what your brand is. I mean, your brand is really a series of logos. And if we spend a minute, Patty, you and I could figure out what those logos are on your personal brand. Mine would be a lot of the things I associate with. And we associate with other brands because it brings good feelings to us. It makes us feel good about ourselves and who we are, our self-image. I go to Starbucks. I love Starbucks. It is part of my personal brand. I drive a Jeep. And what we drive is often very much attached to our personal brand. I drive a Jeep. I can't be out in the wilderness nearly enough. I have a very busy life. But man, that's what I'm all about. I have a home in the mountains of Virginia. I want to be there whenever I can go there and get away from my crazy life. So Jeep is part of my brand. The Blue Ridge Parkway is part of my brand. And we do this, and these are part of my brand. I mean, the Forum for Healthcare Strategists is part of my brand. So the joining and belonging, when you're doing it, you can be mindful of the fact that you're creating your brand. Whatever it is you're joining, people are seeing and they're talking about. Every time I post on Facebook, and I do post on Facebook, I am very cognizant that that is my brand going out there. So I'm careful. I really am. I'm more careful with Facebook than I am with any other tool. Because it's so public, and I'm just very cautious. I don't ever use my daughter's my daughter has a different last name than I do. I don't ever use her last name on Facebook. I don't want people to be able to see her and Google her, and they can probably find her. It's because she's pretty out there on social media as well. She teaches me a lot of stuff about it, as you might imagine. But be mindful. That's a great takeaway for today. And if you approach it that way, I think you'll be much better off.
I don't know if this is
Please.
sort of a dumb question.
There are no dumb questions.
So on LinkedIn, I have sort of my standard groups, but obviously there's a million different groups. What's your advice on how to find groups that you may, would be good for you to join, or I guess I've never really thought.
It should be driven by your interests. I mean, I don't want you to work hard at it. It's my groups changed because I might be involved in a project. Like I was just doing a project on ACOs in the patient-centered medical home, and Pat helped me out actually on it. But when I did that, I joined a bunch of ACO and patient-centered medical home groups, because I wanted to be a part of that conversation and hear what they're saying and learn from that. Now I've gone in and deleted some of those. I like some of them, so I'm going to keep a couple, but I've deleted most of them because I want to have room to join other groups that interest me. But let it be guided by your interests. Don't force it. And believe me, there's something out there for every interest. So using myself as the model for how to do this, and I've had bad things happen to me on the internet. So I do Google myself all the time. I'll be sitting in a hotel room somewhere, and I will see what's new in the world of Dan. And like Catherine, you see what pops up. Twitter, #1. So with me, you get Twitter, you get one of my blogs, which is the Healthcare Marketer. You get my company, which I'm glad to see pop up. And you get LinkedIn immediately right at the top of the page. And I'm just searching for Dan Dunlop. I'm not searching for Dan Dunlop plus healthcare, which is really the right way to find me. Because there are lots of Dan Dunlops out there in the world, right? So it is amazing. Take notes on it. It is amazing that the real Dan Dunlop popped up. I mean, that has taken me 7 years to make that happen. Where it's not, there's a Dan Dunlop who's an actor, there's a Dan Dunlop who's a comedian. I mean, and they're not showing up. Yes, Sandy?
Did you make a clear decision at the beginning of all this to be Dan? I mean, I'm Sandy, Sandra, Sandra L.
I have the same issue, Sandy. I'm Dan, Daniel, to some people Danny, which I don't like. So I had the same, and I did. I made the clear-cut decision to become Dan Dunlop. And the only place I'm Daniel is on YouTube, because I couldn't get a Dan. I had to go with Daniel through Google.
But so media pieces. So I have a lot of media pieces that are out of Sandra L. Won't come up if I search Sandra.
Right.
But if I search Sandra L, they come up and the other things don't. Is there any way to manage that?
I would set up Google alerts for all those.
Oh,
I have Daniel S. Dunlop, Dan Dunlop, Dan S. Dunlop, and yeah, you're better if you keep it consistent. But again, there are times where Sandy doesn't want to be Sandy. She wants to be Sandra, and I get that. And there are times I want to be Daniel. So it's a challenge. But set up Google alerts for every possible variation. Judy?
I'm on LinkedIn, and since I went on to LinkedIn, if I do Google myself, if all these other, I don't know whether it's marketing sites or whatever, kind of pop up with your name, kind of, and then if you click on them, your name's embedded, but they have no more information other than your title or whatever you put on your account. Is that a site just trying to grab your attention to be involved?
No, if I get what you're talking about, I know, like when I did the search for Jill, when I was preparing for this presentation, I got Jill on LinkedIn, but I also got a bunch of these marketing sites that, like Spokio and some of those, that want to sell you information about that individual. I mean, that's their business. They want to sell you her email address and her mailing address and all that, and they have it. But most of those just ignore it. And the reason to do what I've done, or what Catherine has done, is because you notice that stuff's not showing up on mine. Because there's so much legitimate information about me, it bumps all that other stuff out of the way. It's like with PR for your organization. When there's bad stuff about your organization and it pops up in Google searches, the way I overcome that is by having good stuff about your organization that pushes the bad stuff down on Google. It's a great strategy. And Facebook is the same thing. If someone writes a bad thing about your company on your Facebook wall, but you want to be credible and you don't want to just delete it because, sometimes people aren't happy with a certain hospital or health system or whatever it happens to be. The way I overcome that is we'll do 10 quick posts of great things happening. And that Facebook post, they're in a linear, chronological order. So it pushes it down to the bottom. Nobody scrolls that far. So there are strategies for dealing with this, and this is why you want to take control of your brand. So on page 1, if you were searching for me, you get my Twitter feed, LinkedIn, Facebook account, but you can't see much on my Facebook because I have all the security stuff. You get my company, you get my blog, and you get YouTube, which is what I want. That's great. On page 2, you get my Google Plus account, and I'll talk to you about Google Plus in a minute. It's another easy thing you can do. You don't have to be too vigilant about it. You can do it a couple times a year to update, or you can do it like you do Facebook, whenever you want. But it's a good tool because it's owned by Google, right? Google Plus is part of Google. You want something that's searchable about you, use a Google tool. YouTube and Google Plus are 2 of them. Yes,
Can you
Chris?
just explain how Google Plus and Facebook are different?
I will show it in a minute. I've got some
Okay.
Google Plus slides, absolutely. You get my Pinterest account. I'm one of the 12 men who are on Pinterest. But you know what? I blog about healthcare marketing. Okay? Not the most exciting subject in the world. So only a limited universe of people are interested in it. And a lot of them are women, actually, because there are a lot of women healthcare marketers. But I've had over 200,000 visits to my blog. So it's a pretty successful blog. And Pinterest is the #2 driver of traffic to my blog. Every blog post I write, I embed a photograph or some kind of image, and I post it to Pinterest. And I have a pin board on Pinterest, for those of you who know anything about Pinterest. I have a pin board for my blog, and that drives a ton of traffic to my blog. It's just fascinating. These things that pop up, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest. It's amazing. It's all I can do to try to understand them at like a superficial level. I don't want to be stressed out by the fact that I can't know it all. But it's amazing. And Pinterest for women today, I mean, I can't tell you how many women I know who cook using Pinterest. They have their laptop there or their iPad and they're cooking using recipes they find on Pinterest. It is their #1 source for recipes.
I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, check it out. Just out of curiosity, check it out. It's incredible. So you get my book chapter I wrote last year. You get a column I write regularly for Reagan.com, which is a big PR kind of organization. You get my Paper.ly thing, which I'll explain to you hopefully later. And then you get a Ning community. I've created my own online community using a social media platform called Ning. And healthcare marketers can actually join that community and share, just like a little Facebook. They can share information, they can talk to each other, and so on. I have almost 700 healthcare marketers from around the country and from a few countries beyond the U.S. who belong to this group, who talk, who share. They can contribute blog posts, they can do whatever they want. So this is what you find with me. So I'm going to tell you my basic formula, and what you need to do is find out what works for you, because if it's too hard, you're not going to do it, and you're not going to be successful. So find what will work easily. Yes?
Quick question. So this basic formula is just for you as an individual, not for a company?
Yes. But I tell you what, it will work for a company. And it has worked for my company. You know, and the challenge you have is, and most of you won't have this problem that I've had. You know, I have conflicting brands. I have the Dan Dunlop brand and I have the Jennings brand. And what I have to be really careful of is make sure I'm building my company brand as much as I'm building my own brand. Because we want people to know my company, because I'm not just one person. You know, my company is 18 people. And I want potential clients and current clients to know that there's a whole army of great people behind me doing this work. So I have to be really careful of that. Now, if you work for a bigger organization, that's not nearly as hard. You know, if Christine is doing something online that reflects really positively on the Hospital Association, we don't worry about is Christine's brand eclipsing the Massachusetts Hospital Association. It's not really relevant. So the basic formula is have a LinkedIn profile and be comprehensive about it. I'll show you that in a minute how to do it. Have a Google Plus profile and update it periodically. I mean, maybe a couple times a year. Have a Twitter feed, and I will say this is completely optional. If this stresses you out, don't worry about Twitter. It is one of the least important elements on here. I happen to love Twitter because it's such a great professional development tool for me. I can be talking to the thought leaders in my industry every day. I used to, 10 years ago when I was doing my job, I never got to talk to thought leaders except on a day like this when I would come to an annual conference and network. But other than that, I was isolated. And we don't email each other, we don't know each other. But now, because of things like Twitter and LinkedIn, we know each other really well. I have friends all over the country that I see maybe once a year, but I talk to every day because of these tools. Amazon.com. How many of you buy books from Amazon online? So then, I'm assuming you read books from Amazon, right? Go on and write a review. You have your, first of all, update your profile. You can upload a photo. You can have a full profile, just like you have on LinkedIn almost, on Amazon. And then you can review books. You can create lists. I'll show you that in a minute as well. I love this, and it is really searchable online. So instead of all that crap that shows up now with people trying to sell you information about you, you can have your Amazon profile pop up online. Much better. And then there are lots of things you can do that don't have anything to do with social media, and you can promote them on social media, but you can speak at conferences. You can host roundtables, which is a little less stressful than having to speak at conferences, and you don't have to prepare nearly as much. You can write. You know, I was sitting in my hotel room here last night under a deadline to have an article to a publication this morning at 9. And it was only 9 because I wanted to come see this presentation at 9, so I wanted to have it done by 9. And the woman, Kelly Woodsum, I don't know if any of you know her, she runs the New England Society for Healthcare Marketing, or whatever they call it, NESHCO. Kelly emailed me and said, Dan, we have a hole in our newsletter. We need an article tonight. And so I wrote an article for Kelly too last night. But the thing is, those are things that go online. You know, that newsletter article will be archived online on Neshco's website forever. The article I write for this magazine will be online, and it'll go into people's, you know, businesses. It's a great way to keep your brand out there. And then you go on your LinkedIn profile and you list your articles. So it all works together. It's an integrated approach.